Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone, and the Knicks are on the verge of disaster. They are crumbling in the biggest moment in the midst of their best season in 25 years. They just went down not 0-1, but 0-2 at Madison Square Garden. They lost game one in one of the biggest comebacks, one of the biggest collapses of all time. And in game two, they're fighting back and forth with the Pacers. They go down in the fourth quarter, but then they fight back. They get really close, and in the end, they fall just short to lose again to Indiana, who is one more time one of the best clutch teams I've seen in my entire life. Pacers continue to roll on the road. I think this is win 5 or 6 in a row on the road in these playoffs. The Knicks continue to struggle to defend Madison Square Garden, and they're in dire straits now. They've got to go in. They have to tie this thing up. You can't afford to go down 0-3 or 3-1 coming back to New York. You've got to go ahead and figure something out to get this back 2-2. Otherwise, your season is coming to an end. And let's talk about why this is happening. First of all, the Pacers are just an absolute menace. They are a buzzsaw. They are a team that nobody has been able to solve yet. Their offense continues to roll. In this one, shoot 51% from the field, 43% from three. And this was the Pascal Siakam game. I remember when the Siakam trade happened, a lot of people were like, oh, okay, cool, but what does that really change? And I felt like it was a phenomenal deal because they didn't really have to give up too much, especially if you go back and look at that trade now. It was a great package to give up for a guy as good as Siakam, who is contributing to potentially a finals run here. And it felt like to me, okay, now you have Haliburton and Siakam, you had one more guy, and you can become this championship level team. Turns out maybe they didn't need anybody, and Siakam drops 39 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal, 3 of 5 shooting from 3, 15 of 23 from the floor. The Knicks have no answer for him. Now, the Knicks also have no answer for really anybody. Nesmith had another great game with 12 points, 16 for Miles Turner on 5 of 10 shooting. Nembhard had 12 points, 2 of 2 from 3, 5 of 8 shooting, 5 of 8 from TJ McConnell. There was one play where Karl-Anthony Towns hedged on a TJ McConnell screen. Like, I just don't understand what they're doing defensively. That's been the big issue for the Knicks, is they just can't guard the Pacers at all. We'll talk about that in a moment. Not even a great Haliburton game. 14 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists. Like, he was still good, but shot just 5 of 16. This is one the Knicks really need to go out there and win, because you got another big game from Brunson, who had 36 and 11 assists. You got 20 from Mikal Bridges. You had 20 points and 7 rebounds from Cat, although the defense was bad enough to the point where he got benched for a majority of this fourth quarter. OG gives you 16. Like, they put up points from most of their guys. They just couldn't get stops. And that has been the concern with the Knicks this entire season. This is just not a good defensive team. Now, they leveled it up against the Celtics, and it felt like, okay, if they can do that again against the Pacers, then they're going to have success. But even though the Knicks were better defensively against the Celtics, it also just felt like Boston didn't really do the stuff that they typically do. They didn't target as many mismatches. They didn't put Brunson or Towns in actions as often as it felt like they should have. They just kind of went with iso ball. They didn't do extra passes to get those guys in rotation. The Pacers are doing the exact opposite. They are passing the ball. It's flying around the perimeter. They're getting on the interior. They're taking advantage of every single mismatch, of every single out-of-position player that you can possibly imagine. That is the execution that the Pacers bring to the table every single game, and they're running up and down the court relentlessly. They're pressuring you 94 feet at their own basket, just wearing the Knicks down. And by the end of the game, like, they don't even look tired at all, and the Knicks looked exhausted. Mitchell Robinson, who was playing in place of Karl-Anthony Towns late in this one, played almost 30 minutes, and he was huffing and puffing down the stretch. And I tweeted out that Cat needed to be in the game. Mitchell Robinson was better overall, but his effectiveness dropped a lot because he was just exhausted. The Pacers play with pace. It is in the name what they bring to the table, and now they're just 2 wins away from making it to the NBA Finals. Congrats to the Pacers and everything they've done so far. They have proven a lot of people wrong, me included, after the way they started the season. They have been one of the NBA's best teams, and they're not slowing down anytime soon. And as for the New York Knicks, there was a lot to talk about here, starting off with Tom Thibodeau. Thibs has, in my opinion, done some great stuff in this playoff run. What they did against the Celtics, I felt like they executed very well, and there's a lot of good adjustments by Thibs. They did some good stuff against the Pistons, but all season there have continued to be criticisms, and you're seeing a lot of it now here against the Pacers, where Thibs struggles a lot of times with some in-game decisions. Like at the beginning of the fourth quarter, it is tied. It's 81-81, I believe. And they roll a lineup out to start the fourth quarter of Cam Payne, Deuce McBride, Mitchell Robinson, Mikal Bridges, Karl-Anthony Towns. That lineup in total in this game played 9 minutes, negative 46.3 net rating. That's abysmal. It took, I think, until around the 9-minute mark for Jalen Brunson to check back into this game after they'd went down 9 at the beginning of the fourth. I just don't know why it takes that long. It shouldn't take that long to get Brunson back in the game. It was tied and they gave up 9 points almost immediately at the beginning of the quarter. And it's like, okay, yeah, now we got to get Brunson in. But at that point, the Pacers had built up a little bit of a lead and the Knicks fought back, but then the Pacers struck again. You just put yourself in too much of a hole that you needed to take advantage and build something up in those moments to get ready for the eventual clutch heroics that the Pacers are going to bring to the table. Karl-Anthony Towns, like I said, started that fourth quarter, but in the end, only plays 27 minutes because this was an all-time bad Karl-Anthony Towns defensive game. And you see the limitations that continue to exist with Cat at the 5. They've tried to run some double big stuff, and overall, the net rating's been high. It's been successful here in the playoffs, but against the Pacers in particular, it just doesn't work. This team is too quick on the perimeter. They've got too much perimeter talent for those bigs to slide their feet, get out there to those shooters, rotate in time to close out on somebody that's wide open in the corner. It just doesn't really work. It worked against the Boston Celtics, who are really struggling from three, and especially if, Kristaps Porzingis can't make you pay, that's going to work. It worked against the Pistons, who are not nearly as big of an offensive threat as this Pacers team is. It just doesn't work here. And when you play Cat at the 4, then it minimizes his offensive impact. But if he's at the 5, then defensively it hurts, especially if you have Jalen Brunson out there, because if you have Brunson and Cat out there defensively, you just are automatically putting two liabilities into almost every single action because the Pacers are going to target those guys. And having Mikal and OG helps, but this didn't feel like a particularly great defensive game from either of them either. Josh Hart, I think, needs to come out of the starting lineup. They need to change the starting lineup because the starters in this game played 16 minutes, 48 seconds, and it was a net rating of minus 38.6. That's Brunson, OG, Mikal, Towns, and Josh Hart. It just doesn't work. The skill set of Josh Hart, I just don't think fits this team well enough. I think they need to put Deuce McBride in there. Maybe they try double bigs, although again, I don't think it really works well enough against this Pacers team with the perimeter talent that they have, but something needs to change. And again, that goes to Thibs. He's not really willing to adjust. They keep putting themselves in early holes against the Pacers. Both games, they start out slow. That is part of the issue with Karl-Anthony Towns on your team is, can you play the 5? Well, your defense is going to be a problem, especially if Brunson's out there. But if he's playing your 4, then it feels like the offensive impact isn't that big. And that was something we saw last year with Minnesota, where he took a bit of a step back and they got to the conference finals, but they couldn't get over the hump. And the Knicks are in a very similar spot right now where they've looked outclassed through these first 2 games. Brunson, at the end of the game, overall in the game, he was fantastic. But at the end of the game, there's a lot of people talking about the final shot that he took, or not the final shot, but they were down 3. And Brunson comes down the court and immediately shoots a 3, like from very, very deep. He was way out there. And there are 2 schools of thought here. One, the shot is not good enough, that he needs to get a better look. The second one is he was afraid he was going to get fouled. And honestly, it's Jalen Brunson. He's your clutch guy. I don't mind it all that much. And even a third school thought that Thibs should have called a timeout. Fourth school thought, if you really want one, that it's fine to get fouled there because, you have Mitchell Robinson, Cat, like you've got good size. You can try and go for a miss. Yeah, he shot it with like 9 seconds ago. So it's not the end of the world if you get fouled there. You can still try and play the foul game. You do have a timeout in your back pocket, which I feel like Thibs should have called a timeout and tried to run something, but maybe he's like, try to get something quick and, we can use the timeout if they miss free throws. I don't know. There's a lot of weirdness in this game. Cameron Payne is in the game as well in the fourth quarter, and it just felt like that was a big time mistake. Cam Payne, Thunder legend and everything, but I just don't think he's a guy that they can really afford to have out there. But then again, that goes to the issue of this team's depth. The Knicks are not a very deep team. They play really only 7 guys because Cam Payne only played 9 minutes, 25 for Miles McBride, 29 for Mitchell Robinson, and both those guys were fantastic off the bench, but they still have to play Brunson 38 minutes. Mikal Bridges played 45 minutes in this game, 35 for OG, which isn't that crazy, but like these guys have had to play heavy minutes all regular season. You could see them wearing down a little bit at the end of this game, and I'm not saying that's solely because of the minutes they've played all year, but they're definitely getting gassed a lot quicker than the Pacers. There is reasoning behind it. It's just not a deep team, whereas the Pacers, like Tony Bradley, gave them phenomenal minutes today in the midst of some foul trouble for their other 2 bigs with Thomas Bryant and Miles Turner. He didn't put up a lot of stats, but I thought he was really good. He was a +1 as your 3rd string big who really never plays. That is a massive luxury to have. Ben Shepherd plays 12 minutes and 14 for TJ McConnell and 10 minutes for Benedict Mathurin and 19 for Obi Toppin. Like they can go 8, 9, 10, 11 guys deep, and they're still perfectly fine. And that's what we've been talking about, is where depth feels like it's now king in the NBA. The Pacers are incredibly deep. The Thunder, who are up 2-0, are also one of the deepest teams in the league. These are maybe the 2 deepest teams in the entire sport, or at least in that conversation. And it's working extremely well for both of these squads because the Pacers just have so many bodies they can throw at the Knicks. They're not getting tired. They are, full of energy at the end of the game. They could probably go ahead and play a doubleheader if you really needed to. And all of these factors, the lack of defense, the coaching missteps from Thibs, the lack of execution overall have led to them being in an 0-2 hole after playing both games at Madison Square Garden. This is a nightmare scenario for the Knicks. They can still come back in this series. I don't think they're completely out of it. It's not like they got destroyed both games and they look outclassed completely, but they've definitely looked like the worst team. They've been beaten in most areas of basketball so far. They have to find some way to slow down this Pacers offense. And at this point, I don't even know if it's possible with the way that they've just shot so well, whether it's on contested looks or wide open looks. It feels like they've never missed a wide open look in their entire lives. They have just looked like a worse team. And the Pacers, again, have been so good. Since they started the season a little bit rough, they were under 500, but really right around like kind of that February mark, they flipped the switch and have just been a juggernaut, really. Since that point, I do think changing the starting lineup and having better lineups out there in general is obviously two things Thibs can do, but that's easier said than done. Who knows if the new starting lineup will even really save you? I think it's worth a shot of putting Deuce in there instead of Josh Hart. I just don't think he has a skill set that really brings much to the table with that starting five. So yeah, those are my thoughts overall in this game. Pacers have been really good. The Knicks have held up. They fought back, but they're just getting destroyed in the clutch, which is crazy because it felt like the Knicks were the big clutch comeback team against the Celtics, and they had a couple of big moments. They had crazy shot making down the stretch of some of those Pistons games, and now they're just running into a new level of clutch demon here in Tyrese Haliburton, Pascal Siakam, and these Indiana Pacers. Let me know what you think comes out of this series. Can the Knicks come back and win this one? Do you think the Pacers are going to win in 4, win in 5, or are they still in for a longer series than that? Appreciate you watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. The Knicks, it took them 25 years to get here and they're going to go out like this. I just refuse to believe it. I think if I had to guess, they go down 3-1, but they take one of the games at least in Indiana, and then we have to see if they can make the 3-1 comeback. But I can't believe they get swept. I can't believe it with the talent that they have. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But for the moment, Pacers look phenomenal. It's looking like right now, Indiana OKC finals, which for some reason, some people are saying, oh, then the ratings are going to suck. Who cares? That's phenomenal basketball. One of the most efficient offenses we've seen in playoff history versus one of the best defenses ever. Shea versus Haliburton, two of the best guards in the sport. If you don't want to see that finals, you don't like basketball. I don't make the rules. Yeah, appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all later. Peace.